Welcome, everyone. Good morning to those who are gathered here in the sanctuary and to all who are joining online today. We begin this morning with a musical prelude by John Mayhood. Thank you, John. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charlottesville. My name is Tori Goodlow. My pronouns are she, her, and I am pleased to be leading worship this morning with Rev. Tim Temerson, accompanist John Mayhood, and the Ravenna Shape Note Singers. This sanctuary was built over 70 years ago on the homeland of the Monacan people and was once cared for by enslaved people from Africa and their descendants. We honor all who have dwelt here and all in our congregation whose lives led to this moment of our gathering. I invite us to take a moment to greet others. Those online may unmute, and those here in the sanctuary or social hall are welcome to greet your neighbors, especially those you may not know.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey,
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
good morning.
I don't know who just walked in with that beautiful blue skirt, but it is so beautiful. I'm going to have to ask her after the service where she got it from.
Okay. What you knitting, Sally?
It's a baby sweater, just started.
Oh, very nice.
We offer a special welcome to newcomers and invite you to join us for fellowship after the service in the social hall. Feel free to use one of our red coffee mugs, and UUCville members and friends are reminded to offer a warm welcome to anyone with a red mug. There is a live stream of the service in the social hall, and while everyone is welcome here in the sanctuary, the social hall can be a good option if you need a roomier space. Many thanks to all the folks helping us share worship both here and online, our greeters, ushers, and hospitality teams, and special thanks to our AV Tech team led by Rachel Buckland. And now we have greetings from Vice President Bev Ryan.
Good morning. I was just talking to somebody who was wondering if I was a visitor because I have a little tag on. And yes, we do forget our name tags at home. I just want to give thanks to everybody for the auction that we held last night. It was, yes, it was fun. We actually, I heard rumors that we've made about $7,000. Yay. And I will tell you that the bidding really got hectic toward the end. People were like shoving each other, putting their names down, crossing other names off. Thank you so much, everyone. It means a lot to be a part of a community that comes together like this. Thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. There's a few items still left out there that you can bid on. And also, I think there may be some events that may be available, and I'll have to talk with Kay Frazier to see if we can kind of publicize those.
Thank you, Bab. Before we get to our morning announcements, our good friend from Ebenezer Baptist Church, Pastor Lehman Bates, is here to share a few words with us. Welcome, Pastor Bates.
I've invited my partner in crime to stand here with me. First of all, good morning, everyone. Before I give announcements, let me just do this. Look at your neighbor next to you and say, don't tell them. Go ahead right now. Look at your neighbor, say, don't tell them, show them. That way, if you don't remember anything else I said, maybe that's a word for us today.
Show them.
Yes, I did. Anyway, as you hopefully know, I have known Elizabeth for over 17 years, and we have engaged in numerous outreaches together. And as a result of that working together, we've gained a level of friendship that's based on trust and honesty, something that's lacking today. And I believe that's what's going to carry us, especially based on what has happened this past week. For us to continue as a human race, we have to learn how to love one another, trust one another, and work with one another. Would you agree? Amen. Let me just say this very quickly. As many of you know, we every year at this time, we engaged in various community outreaches. This one, of course, coincides with the holiday season. We provide Thanksgiving turkeys and baskets. Elizabeth will tell you I have been trying to stop this for the last 5 years. And the little voice keeps telling me, not yet. And so what we decided to do this year was I wanted to share with you ahead of time. We already have requests from various organizations. Region 10 is one. Fifield Neighborhood is another. Kindlewood Residential Community is another. And in the next several weeks, we'll be getting more and more requests. The need is getting greater and greater. And so again, I can't thank you enough for what you have been to us, because you have not been just a supporter, but you've been a partner with us. And so we do have flyers. Elizabeth has copies of flyers for the actual event. We certainly welcome you to come and to contribute, participate in whatever manner you see fit. The other thing that I want to announce is that for many of you who have been so kind in joining me in working with the Black farms in this area, we have relaunched our order processing system. We're going to be doing that for the next several weeks, so that for those of you that are going to be planning for your holiday activities, certainly consider us. And we do have copies of the menu that we receive from the farmers. And so this is my task today. This is what I wanted to come and just share with you. And I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime so that she can have something to say.
You open the door that wide. Woo, woo. I'll put this in the newsletter. The request that is on the poster is for cleaning supplies, and there'll be a barrel in the front hall for you all to start to contribute cleaning supplies, because Pastor called me this morning and told me about this. And that means we have 13 days to do it, which is plenty of time.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Pastor Bates. UUCville's Climate Justice Revival is next weekend. The revival takes place Saturday afternoon here at the church and continues Sunday morning with a service followed by a sustainable potluck lunch. Please bring a dish to share if you are so inclined. The Climate Justice Revival is a historic opportunity for Unitarian Universalists to envision how we will join together to work for climate justice, and that work is even more important given the outcome of the election. We need a big turnout both on Saturday and Sunday, so please register on the church website. Are you new to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville? Want to learn more about us and about Unitarian Universalism? Join Rev Tim and several lay leaders at 12:15 right here in the sanctuary. Actually, it's in the parlor. Please feel free to get some coffee and popcorn and head to the parlor at 12:15. The UU Parent Support Group meeting is in Lower Hall 3 at 12 from 12:30 to 1:30 today. UUCville will be hosting guests from Pacham from November 16th to November 30th, and we need everyone's help. There are tasks large and small, from preparing and serving food to house setup and cleanup. Families with children are welcome to pitch in. You can sign up on the link, which can be found in the Friday newsletter and on the church website. And is it the second week, Elizabeth, that? Okay. There will be a memorial service for UUCville member Al Reynolds this afternoon at 3 p.m. here in the sanctuary and online, with a reception to follow. And finally, all are invited to join for refreshments and conversation today in the social hall following the service.
Morning, everyone. Good to see you this morning. It's nice to see such a almost full house today. Of course, I always think you all come just because you know Pastor Bates is going to be making an announcement today. So absolutely. So Tori and I would like to begin this morning by sharing some words from my colleague, Reverend Steve Schick. From the loneliness of troubled times, we come.
To discover that we are not alone.
Into this dwelling place of togetherness, we come.
To collect remnants of hope.
From fear that all is lost, we come.
To discover what will save us.
Into the comfort of each other's arms, we come.
To feel the strength that has not yet vanished.
Into this dwelling place of generations, we come.
To pledge ourselves to being peace and doing justice. Come, let us worship together. I now invite the Kraus family to light our flaming chalice and the lamps that travel to our children's religious education meeting rooms. Will you please join in saying our chalice lighting words? We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And now we will do the hand motions. Here we go. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is a church of open minds. This is a church of helping hands. This is a church of loving hearts. Today we are joined by the Ravenna-shaped note singers, and I now invite them to come forward to share our opening hymn. Wow, thank you. We are an interconnected. Oh, yes, we are going to sing our children to their classes. Thank goodness for the children. We are an interconnected community that cares for one another. Part of how we embody this care is by making time each week to share the joys and sorrows we hold in our hearts. Now, everyone is invited to come forward as you wish and place a glass stone in a communal bowl of water as a symbolic act of each being held by the larger love that holds us all. All are welcome to participate, including those who are new to our congregation. Those online may type their joys and sorrows into the chat. Cindy Benton Groner from the pastoral care team will come forward to help hold the space. Cindy will be available for a few minutes after the service in the back corner of the sanctuary if you are in need of pastoral support or just want someone to listen. Those online can contact the pastoral care team at pastoral@ucharlottesville.org. Let us begin our ritual. This community offers its love and support to what is closest to our hearts. Another way we show our care for one another is in sharing our financial gifts with our community and our congregation. Our social action collection for the month of November is for Lily Pads Housing. Lily Pads Housing is dedicated to providing affordable, temporary housing for families traveling across medical care for their children. Lily Pads offers a network of welcoming homes near UVA's Children's Hospital, allowing families to stay close to their children during treatment without the burden of high lodging costs. Lily Pads Housing helps families focus on what matters most, supporting their loved ones on the journey to healing. Rachel, will you please show us the social action slide for giving for those who would like to make a donation to Lily Pads Housing right now? In addition to giving online, if you would like to give today with cash or check, please use the social action collection envelopes here in the sanctuary and place your offering in the collection plate. And please make sure to make your checks out to the UU Congregation of Charlottesville and write Social Action Collection in the memo line. Along with our social action collection, we invite everyone to financially support the ministries and mission of this community. Through your pledges and the weekly Sunday morning offering, together, our financial gifts support UU Seville and enable us to put love into action. This is our shared ministry. During the music that follows, you can offer your financial support by using the text address or going to our website. You may place cash or checks in the collection plates as they are passed. Let us now dedicate all of the many gifts we share with one another by saying, "We accept your gifts with gratitude. May we use them wisely for the highest good." It's lovely. Thank you. Our reading this morning is from the writings of Nelson Mandela. The challenge of every prisoner, particularly every political prisoner, is how to survive prison intact and how to emerge from prison undiminished. Prison is designed to break one's spirit and destroy one's resolve, and the authorities attempt to exploit every weakness, demolish every initiative, negate all signs of individuality, all with the idea of stamping out that spark that makes each of us human and each of us who we are. Our survival depended on understanding what the authorities were attempting to do to us and sharing that understanding with each other. It would be very hard, if not impossible, for one man alone to resist. I do not know that I could have done it had I been alone. The authorities' biggest mistake was keeping us together, for together our determination was reinforced. We supported each other and gained strength from each other. Any person or institution that tries to rob me of my dignity will lose, because I will not part with it at any price. I never seriously considered the possibility that I would not emerge from prison or that I would die behind bars. I always knew that someday I would once again feel the grass under my feet and walk in the sunshine as a free man.
All volunteers here, so we don't do this as a performance. This is something we do because we love to sing this music, and so we're not tight. So we're 4:38. Fa 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 la sol la fa sol.
Well, thank you very much. You get to hear these folks sing one more time after I finish up my sermon this morning. But John, you said you all love singing. Well, can I speak for everyone here and say, we love you and we love your singing. So absolutely. So, well, it's good to see you all this morning. So very good to be with you. It's wonderful to see so many people here, so many new faces. I think I met 6 or 7 new people, new families here this morning, and I'm just so happy about that. Whatever circumstances brought you here, I'm guessing maybe for some of you it had something to do with an event that happened a few days ago. Whatever brings you into this congregation, Please know that as our mission says, that we aspire to be a safe and welcoming place for all. And all means all. And I just want you all to know that we mean it, that this is a community that's rooted in love and peace and justice, and we welcome every person, no matter who you are, where you come from, who you love, what you believe. We welcome everyone. So, Tori, thanks for sharing those words from Nelson Mandela. I had read a book of his letters that was published several years ago, and found that excerpt. I think part of it was from his autobiography, part from the letters. But that particular reading it always touches my heart, and I'm very glad to be able to share it with you. Now, I want to spend most of my time this morning talking about the roots of the courage and the hope that sustained Nelson Mandela for 3 decades of imprisonment. Where does such hope come from? How can anyone cultivate it? And in those moments when we are frightened and in despair, how do we find a path back to hope? But before I get to Mandela, let me just say a few words about what happened earlier this week. And let me just begin by saying how fearful and frightening these last few days have been. I am myself still in shock, and every time I think about the next 4 years, I'll just be honest, filled with dread. During the first Trump administration, I was the minister of a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Northeast Ohio, and I can so vividly remember the heaviness that was on the hearts of almost everyone in the congregation, myself included. Right after that election in 2016, I know many of us couldn't imagine how so many of our fellow citizens voted for a candidate who had spent so much of his campaign demonizing immigrants, demeaning women and people of color, and doing everything in their power to turn people against one another. And as bad as that campaign was, the next 4 years were worse. Several years before Trump came into office in 2017, that congregation had developed a pretty sustained and vibrant immigration ministry, and several of the families that we had gotten to know had begun attending the church and eventually signed the membership book. Once Trump took office, the level of fear among those families was indescribable. They were afraid of being torn apart and deported back to countries they had been forced to flee due to the threat of violence at home. And it was that climate of fear that led that congregation I was serving at the time to eventually to decide to become a sanctuary church and host a family from El Salvador for over 2 years. I tell you all this simply to say that while the results of last week's election have stirred so many memories and feelings in me, and I'm fairly confident in many of you, the threat posed to those who are already marginalized in our society and who have been scapegoated by political leaders, that threat is real, serious, and dangerous. I have to say that over the last few months, I have been so disheartened by the way the trans community, which already experiences violence far above the national average, has been vilified. I've been equally disheartened by the way immigrants have once again been used as scapegoats and how so many people gleefully cheer on calls for mass deportations without stopping to think what that means, stopping to think about the harm that will be caused to families, to children, and I might add, to the U.S. economy. I'm also disgusted by how easily we dismiss the clear and present danger to the lives of women who are being denied reproductive health care by physicians fearful of prosecution. And finally, I'm afraid for all people of color and those from non-Christian religions who are threatened by the hatred and intolerance of white Christian nationalism. My apologies for the venting. As you can tell, I'm pretty upset, guessing many of you are as well, and I'm very worried about what the next 4 years will hold. And I, again, am so fearful of what will happen to those who who are not protected by the cloak of white male privilege, as I am. And I guess it's my sense of despair that draws me to preach today about Nelson Mandela. As difficult and even hopeless as our situation appears to be, I'm not sure it can compare to what Mandela endured for much of his life. I can still remember that glorious day when the world watched as Nelson and Winnie Mandela walked hand in hand through prison gates and into the light of freedom. The outpouring of love and joy in South Africa and across the world was incredible, and I can only hope that we will experience a similar elation in a few years. Nelson Mandela experienced and witnessed firsthand the brutality and indignities Black South Africans were subjected to on a daily basis. But he refused to accept a system that privileged the white minority over the Black majority. He joined the African National Congress as a young man and dedicated his life to ending apartheid. His arrest and imprisonment could have easily led him to give up the struggle and to lose hope for a free South Africa. But he never gave up, and he never lost hope. In the excerpt from Mandela's writings that Tori read earlier, you got a brief taste of what prison life was like. Every day, the authorities tried to rob Mandela and the other political prisoners of their humanity and their dignity. Mandela spent considerable time in solitary confinement, and many of his days were consumed by the mind-numbing and back-breaking labor of splitting rocks in a dusty courtyard unprotected from the hot sun. I think we've got a couple of photographs there. He was rarely allowed to see his family, and his request to attend the funeral of his eldest son was cruelly denied. Mandela's only contact with the outside world were the letters he received and wrote. And what those letters and Mandela's autobiography reveal is the power of hope to sustain human beings through the darkest times, and the critical role played by several factors. And I want to talk about 3 of those factors this morning: integrity, self-care, and especially the power of love and community for creating and sustaining hope. So let me begin by saying a word about Mandela's courage and integrity. As I mentioned before, prison authorities used everything in their repertoire to break his spirit. Fear, intimidation, back-breaking work, isolation, boredom, everything you can imagine was inflicted on the prisoners. And as Mandela himself acknowledges, he and others were terribly afraid for themselves and for their families. But they never let fear stop them from living their values and their convictions, and for day by day, just being who they were. That's actually how Mandela himself defines courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability and the determination to triumph over it. And the way Nelson Mandela and his fellow prisoners triumphed over fear was to continue living life the way they had always lived it. If anything, those dark times of prison deepened their resolve and commitment to freedom and justice. Listen to these words he wrote in a letter from prison in 1970. "Our cause is just. It is a fight for human dignity and for an honorable life. Nothing should be done or said which may be construed directly or indirectly as compromising principle, not even the threat of a more serious charge." And that unwillingness to compromise principle led Mandela to keep resisting and keep demanding dignity and respect. Those struggles were often over what may seem like very small things while he was imprisoned. Getting a pair of sunglasses, asking for a longer pair of pants, time to read and study. But as Mandela recalls, we fought injustice and unfairness wherever we found it, no matter how large or how small. We fought injustice to preserve our humanity. Now, let me pause now to say a word about this connection between living life and sustaining hope. In those moments of deepest despair in my own life, one of the most important sources of hope for me has been to try and keep living my life as best I can, rather than letting myself be defined and owned by my despair. Sometimes, many times, that means simply putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes it means continuing to work and to struggle. Living with integrity while imprisoned on Robben Island allowed Nelson Mandela and his fellow prisoners to remember that their lives were part of something greater, and that they were about so much more than splitting rocks in a prison yard. And there was something else that Mandela did that sustained his hope. Many of you may not be aware that Nelson Mandela was an accomplished gardener. And after years of making requests for seeds and tools, he was finally allowed to plant a vegetable garden on the grounds of Robben Island. Here's a picture of him with his shovel. Now, it wasn't long, because Mandela was such a great gardener, it wasn't long before his garden produced so many tomatoes, chilies, and onions that he began providing vegetables to not only his fellow prisoners, but to the prison officials and the prison kitchen. Now, I think it's fair to say that planting and caring for his garden was most assuredly an act of self-care for Nelson Mandela. As he said in his autobiography, his garden was one of the few things in prison that was entirely his own. The garden became his refuge, a place for peace. Gardening enabled him to quiet his mind and to get lost in the best sense of the word. That's why when someone would ask Mandela how he survived so many years in prison, he would often respond by simply saying, "You must find your own garden." Self-care is such an important and underappreciated part of hope. How can anyone find hope if they are always going, always worrying, always being torn in a million directions, and always caring for everyone but themselves? Mandela understood something that so many activists and sometimes caregivers forget. You cannot change the world. You cannot care for others. You cannot have the kind of hope that sustained Nelson Mandela if you don't take care of yourself. And that leads me to what I think is the most important lesson we can draw from Mandela's life of hope. In the reading, he spoke so powerfully about the care and companionship he received from fellow prisoners. He said, "It would be very hard, if not impossible, for one man, one person alone to resist. I don't know that I could have done it if I had been alone." And the hope Mandela received from his fellow prisoners was echoed in all the love and support he received from the outside world. One cannot begin to measure how much strength Nelson Mandela received from Winnie, from friends and colleagues, and from admirers he had never met. Listen to these words from one of his letters. "Throughout the many years of my incarceration, numerous messages of good wishes and hope sent by people from different walks of life have cut through massive iron doors and grim stone walls, bringing into my cell the splendor and warmth of springtime. In those moments, I feel as if the whole world has been squeezed into my tiny cell. I can't imagine more beautiful words about the power of hope and the close and necessary relationship between hope and love. Ultimately, hope is not something we do or can create all by ourselves. Hope is a gift we continually receive, a gift from the loving arms and goodwill of others. Each and every one of us is a source of hope for each and every one of us. The kind word, the card of support, the hot meal we bring over when someone is sick or struggling, that is where hope comes from. Nelson Mandela believed that we are the hope. We are the love. We are the instruments of divine light. Light that can, as Dr. King once said, turn dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. And if there is one overarching lesson I have learned about hope from Nelson Mandela's life, it is this. When human beings love and care for one another, hope comes alive and becomes a powerful force that changes lives and transforms the world. The hope that sustained Nelson Mandela and his fellow prisoners and so many others in the anti-apartheid movement liberated South Africa. It turned a long and dark yesterday into a brighter and more just tomorrow. And that, friends, is the message that I'd like to leave you with this morning. Darkness and despair. I think many of us, perhaps all of us, are feeling them. They are part of our world, and they always will be. Hope isn't easy. It's not automatic. It's a journey of highs and lows, ups and downs. But remember this, darkness and despair don't have the final say in our lives or in this world. I believe that life and love are too powerful, too bountiful, too blessed to ever be completely banished or cast aside. For all the burdens and struggles that so often fill our days, hope emerges. Hope returns. Hope comes alive. And it comes alive when we live with integrity, when we take care of ourselves, and when we love one another. That's the lesson Nelson Mandela's life offers to us. And it's that hope and that love that will sustain us in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Amen. Thank you so much for listening, and blessed be. Share one more song with us. Thank you so much. What a blessing you all are. Tori, would you please extinguish our chalice? My closing words today are from UU Minister William Murray. He says, let us go forth with the faith that life is worth living, that adversity can be transformed into hope, that love is eternal, and that life is stronger than death. And may this faith inspire us to live our lives with dignity, with courage, and with love this day and every day. Friends, be well. Take very good care of yourselves, of each other, and of the world. Always remember, we're here. We're a community. This is a home for love and a home for peace. And this home is here for you. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.